Hello, you guys. Here, Leilani Torres, and I'm your artistic student mentor. Today, I'm going to talk about fear. Fear to be on stage, fear to have all of the eyes of the audience on you, fear of putting yourself in a situation that you actually do want to be in, but liberated from fear. Um, so really, it's kind of like everybody has been in this position before, right? We have all, and actually, if I think about putting myself in the situation again as a, I don't know, let's say that I want to put myself again into like the, uh, do a solo for masters and thinking about visualizing myself going onto stage, doing the walkthrough, going on deck, putting myself in the position, and starting my routine. That process gets me already like I do remember being very anxious in those moments and being very feeling very weak and feeling out of control and actually thinking that I wasn't able to past that experience. And I know a lot of you do have that same fear. And as coaches, it's really hard for a coach to transmit that they have been in the situation before and that they understand what athletes are going through now. It's something that you cannot really like show, and it's something that doesn't really matter to the athlete and shouldn't matter because it's the experience that they have that is very real for them, and the opinion that everybody else has, that's like one of my first suggestions. The opinion that anybody else has is their opinion. It shouldn't be your opinion. It shouldn't define how you feel, right? Like so one thing that I will try to kind of help you in the process of at least managing that fear is first noticing that being on the in that process, you know, like in the warm-up process or putting on your makeup or being right there on the calling room or being exactly on deck right before listening to that whistle blow before you jump in, you know, like all of those things do need to happen in order for you to prepare for your swim, right? Noticing when is it that you are at most anxious, right? And actually do try to go through the process and see where do you get a little bit more tense. Usually it is on the walkthrough or right on the position on deck. Thinking about that and thinking and accepting first, accept that is normal. Do try to create a plan. Sorry. Do try to create a plan for yourself in that moment. And it's as simple as like calming your brain with a deep breath and telling you, like creating a message that is so positive and so powerful that whatever happens from there on, it will be okay. Usually just trying to think about, imagine I'm on deck and being in that moment and thinking, I'm okay, I'm powerful, I'm ready. Thinking I am ready and taking just a deep breath, right? Like thinking I'm ready. And the music starts, you know, like, or doing the walkthrough and just thinking, I'm powerful, I'm strong. Just kind of these affirmations that make you push yourself through, right? Because usually we do want to swim. We want to swim so bad and so well. We want to do so great that that's the reason why we get so anxious and so nervous. And that's good. That's actually pretty cool feedback. to be aware that we care so much for something that we are afraid of messing it up, right? And you won't, and usually you don't, right? Usually you have proven yourself over and over and over again that you can take on the challenge and you will be fine, right? But you still get nervous. And so the second point that I want to make is, so first, do take your create a visual, right? Create, like, practice that moment when it comes. Visualize this, train it on your mind over and over and over again. And what are you going to think when you're doing the walk on, with the thinking process on? What are you going to think on deck before jumping in the water? And do it at the same time. Visualize this and actually do it, right? The other suggestion that I will make is create a routine. Create a routine that actually helps you make it a little bit easier for you to kind of just go with the flow, right? So I do try to, as a coach, create a like, if I know when the routine is, when is the warm up, what are they gonna do in between the warm up and the routine. For example, if they train in their suits, like their training suits, and they need to change to the competition suit, I put it on the schedule. I give them times to do it. I give them time to do the makeup redo. I give them time to do a land drill, if it's team, if it's solo, to listen to their music, to go through the motion, to be thinking about the actual objective, which is, yes, once you're in the water, it's easier to swim with emotion once you have trained it a lot of the times, right? But that's another subject. What I do mean is creating a sense of control for the athlete, to prepare themselves for the situation that might be a little bit challenging for them. I don't mean the swim will be challenging. Usually the swims are not the issue at the time of the competition, right? Usually it's the attitude towards the swim, right? The attitude towards, some people are like, I'm ready to do this, I can do it, and all of this energy, and then others are like, and I was like this, I was like, I couldn't even, I remember myself not even like, I remember myself in the call room for Olympics and being almost blank, like, and going back into that moment, I did, like, it's things that you learn, right? It's like you also regret being in that situation, not being able to have lived fully the moment just because you kind of like zone out. Thank God that I had trained so much the routine that once I hit the water, everything came out naturally, and we had trained so much that it was like an automatic response, and it was like flash. And I don't know the feeling for any other Olympic athlete, but once you go on deck, you jump in the water and you're out, it's like a second. It's like a second. And usually when I did other swims, it was pretty much like that, especially if you had trained so much. So why it was a second? Because I mentally train and physically train. What was it that I was supposed to be thinking of every single time? So one tip that I actually heard with Irina, the Spanish coach, this past weekend, was preparing for what's coming next, right? Like kind of like creating that visual of like what could happen unexpectedly in the time before the competition that you would like to be able to handle at the moment of the competition. There was a competition that it didn't really have to do with me as a swimmer, it was more as a coach, but I don't, like talking to the swimmers, being in agreement with like a suit that they were gonna use, and all of a sudden they come to the pool at the competition with a different suit, and then you're like, what we had agreed on something, and then they went over me. Of course, I dealt with that after the competition, because in the competition you cannot really do much about it, right? But how do you handle situations like this? How do you handle, for example, that a girl breaks the suit, which actually happened to me at pre-Olympics in 2004 in Athens. We had like a suit. It was like one-sided bra, but there was another kind of little transparent strap on the other side, and all of a sudden it was like plop, and I was like, oh my god, and like running around trying to fight. And this is in the cold room, can you imagine? So yeah, you don't want to have like one boob out of the water. So then, like, how do you deal with this situation, right? Like, how do you deal with those little things that happen? Of course, we all know about like what to do when the nose clip falls off. We'll train for it. If it falls off, do train for like what could you do, like put it on. If it's like a neck beater, do try to put it on in a neck beater. If it's like underwater, try to put it on a transition, or like before going into the, if you were kicking in an acrobatic, like when will you put it on? Like, do try to put yourself in the surprise situations, because once you do, even if it's in your head, and if you train it in the water, once you do, you are much more prepared for the situation if it ever comes. But what it prepares you the most is to take away that fear, take away the weight of that fear, that anxiety that actually limits you and holds you kind of like in a cocoon, in a fear cocoon, when you go into competition, and you cannot enjoy as much as possible that experience. And actually, have you ever, that's a great question actually, have you ever felt like allowed yourself to feel the choreography, or were you so afraid of what would have happened that you didn't really let yourself enjoy that process, right? It's hard to get to it, especially if you don't, for now, it's like we don't get so many opportunities. A lot of the swimmers don't get that much opportunities to put themselves out there, especially with virtual challenges. It's not the same thing, especially, and we will come back to what was normal, you know. Like, I already saw a competition in the States, like collegiate nationals. They had an audience, they were applauding the girls, you know, like, and I was thinking, if I was the United States national team swam, and we have followed them through all of this time, if I had been one of those athletes, I would have cried when I heard the applause, right? It was not even about the swim, because they swim all the time, but we are missing that interaction. We are missing that stimuli, right? So then we need to keep on searching for ways to push ourselves, to put ourselves into that process. So how do you think you can do it? How can you prepare for it? What are the things that get you nervous? What are the things that psych you out? What are those things? Like, the more that you push them away, the worse that it will be, for sure. The more that you push them away, the less prepared you will be for the situation. The more you write about it, talk about it, the more you think about it in a constructive way, think about it in a constructive way, in a way that you can be like, okay, if this happens, I have a solution, you know, like, I can handle it. It's okay. I'm strong. I'm brave. I will get through it. You know, if I make a little mistake, no problem. I will push through the end. And I have done it too. Like, I have made mistakes throughout the routines where I have fall. Like, there was this B routine that I had to go like do 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 do, and I went like do, and I forgot to say to go up and down, and it was like, you know, and c'est la vie, you know, nothing really happened, you know, for just one arm. I mean, it's like how much, of course, you don't want things to happen like that, but if they do, what can you do? It's not the end of the world. Enjoy the moment. You have trained for it. You have pushed yourself to it. I say, like, you have trained and done a lot of swim throughs and prepared yourself. So now it just is about enjoying the process, right? So I'm thinking about if I have another little tip. Another tip will be to actually talk with your partners, your coaches, and tell them how you are at competition so that they understand that is if you're a little bit like drawn back, or if you put headset on, or if you take your time putting on makeup or something like that. If it's like on the time that the team is working with and is allowed, then to just take that time to talk about it, to talk about the process, how it's gonna be, how do you want it to be, what is the expectation of it, and so this way, actually talking about how you know that you are at competition can help you kind of like let them know. And you might be doing the same thing, or you might do something different, but just by letting them know how you usually are also does take some of the weight off, because sometimes once we are nervous, then you're worried about like what everybody else is thinking about you in that moment, which you shouldn't, but is normal also. So you don't want to be like worried about you and worried about everybody else, right? You want to be focused. So then do develop a routine to create focus in the moments when you are like doing that pre-competition training, when you are doing the deck, and when you're on deck, right? Like what are some of the wording that you would like to use? Go through it, plan it out, and then live the swim throughs and enjoy our sport, and feel good about yourself, because you will have achieved something amazing. So I hope today's talk was helpful, and I'm here for you whenever you need me. Take care. Bye.